Call this council meeting to order, February 16th. You stand with us for the mayor.
Please follow me. Lord, thank you once again for the wonderful city that we live in and the residents that we have. We thank you for the staff that keeps the city going. We ask that as we enter the Easter season, we remember who gave his life for us and where we'll eventually end up. We ask that all we do in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Renee, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Shute.
Here.
Getman.
Present.
Ivy.
Here.
Lorientz.
Here.
Stewart.
Here.
Carlisle.
Here. Okay, if there's anyone in the audience that's not on the agenda that would like to be, if you'll see our clerk, she'll get you set up. Just want to welcome everybody tonight. Mayor,
No report.
council.
Disappoint you.
Nothing about the fair?
Fair is in town, by the way. Thank you, Bob. For all of those that you want to ride a ride and see some bears, go to the fairs. Thank you.
Councilman,
Nothing here.
nothing?
No, sir.
Nothing.
Couple of things.
Okay.
First of all, the plan for the 2045 transportation planning organization from there. It's online here. I had it printed out. It's some good intense reading. If you like a lot of acronyms and things of that nature, it has some demographics in it. So just don't read it at bedtime. So seriously, it's intense. You have to be there for that. Anyway, the other thing is we're working on the strategic plan. We had to have a couple of the meetings canceled because of conflicts, but we'll start back up. I think we got a good start. We still have some work to do on it, though, bringing everybody along with it.
Okay.
So
That being
that's
said,
it.
are we gonna have another workshop on that?
Well, yes, I think once we, our group with the department heads especially, we, what we're doing is we're coming to a certain plan to show you, vision, mission statement, those core values, all of that. Once we kind of agree with that, that gives us a jump-off point, bring it back to council, change whatever. It's a living document, so change whatever you think needs to be changed. And once we do that with the department heads, mainly the objectives, measurable objectives for 1, 2, 3. We hadn't decided. Sometimes they're 5 years. Sometimes we can do 3 years. We haven't decided on the length yet, but we had a lot of conversation about it. Once we do that, we can present it to council, change whatever we need to change. I don't think the objectives will change that much because really it's the department heads that are really going to set the tone for that pretty much, I think. A lot of them would be about capital projects, probably. A lot of that will be easy. Then once we get council approval, we'll put it on the website and ask the public to make comments on it. We could have a town hall meeting if anybody would come. So we can do it either way, whatever we want to do. So I know that would excite a lot of people to get involved in that, but we need it, and I think it'll give us some good guidance as we move along.
Any idea when we might do another workshop then? Are we looking at 30 days or?
Well, we could. I've got to get with Scott. Like I said, we've had to cancel 2 sessions. I don't know how many sessions we'll need. The next one I'll be with the department heads pretty much a little more intense talking about it and making sure they have no changes to the vision, no changes to the mission. The first one we had, it was a little long. I shortened that one up a little bit for them. But I think we're pretty close there. Nobody really objected to anything. They just got to get used to the process because there's different processes people go through. We didn't have the easel and the stickums up there that way, but we discussed it. And I think a lot of it, you've got to have some kind of framework, and I did an initial framework, which you saw. initial framework there to work from. And it was just a sample, just to get people thinking and going that way instead of, everybody over and we don't have anything to look at. So that's why I did that. But I think people have caught on to it. At least they haven't told me they haven't, let me put it that way. And I think there's some interest in getting it done. And it's intended not to sit on the shelf. It's a working document. I think the department heads will be working it and what their objectives are, and then the measurements. And then we can decide whether we want quarterly or semi-annual meetings to see how we're doing on our objectives, whether we're meeting it. And I assured them that's not something to beat them over the head with. It's if you don't have the money to do what you have there, I can't expect you to do it if we don't give them the money. So, it's that kind of thing. So you're not going to hold their feet to the fire if they don't meet that objective. But I think that will focus everybody as to, managing for the city what we want to get done. And hopefully the citizens will not disagree too much with what. It's like mom and apple pie when you write your vision statement and your goals and objectives. I mean, who can object, kind of thing. You want to be a nice city, a good city, good quality of life, who's going to argue that, kind of thing. But we might have some better statements out there somewhere, so we'll be open to that. So Scott's going to, he's hearing this, Scott's going to be putting on another meeting, scheduling another meeting. Hopefully it doesn't have any conflicts, because we don't want to lose any more momentum if we had any to begin with, but we don't want to lose any momentum in getting this done. I don't want it to stick out there forever. We want to move on. We got some pretty smart people, department heads. They know what to do. Just got to say, do this. They'll get it done.
Appreciate it, Kurt.
All right, we'll let you know though.
Thank you.
We'll get it to council.
Yep.
Tom? Well, we'll move right along then to the consent agenda. Need a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Audience up here?
Denton. Ivy.
Yes.
Lawrence.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes. Okay, old business. It's a request from Lamar to extend the settlement agreement for an additional 8 months. Mr. Swain?
You may recall that the Lamar sign near the gate station on the lake side of US 27 was damaged during the hurricane 2017. It was subsequently rebuilt by Lamar when it should not have been. We ultimately had a lawsuit regarding it, entered into a settlement agreement in August of 2019 that allowed it to stay up until February 28 of this year. They have asked for additional time to leave it up, and totaling 8 months. You all are allowed to let them keep it up further if you'd like. I would recommend that you not. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
We have a rep that wants to speak, I think. I don't know.
Yes.
Yep.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Rich Burley with Lamar Outdoor. I'm the real estate manager there.
Good evening.
How you doing?
Okay.
Thank you.
And as you recall, Lamar owns a sign at 189 US Highway 27 in Sebring, between Southeast Lakeview Drive and Flair Road. And in the hurricane, as you said, the sign was damaged and we came to a settlement agreement. In the negotiations of the settlement agreement, Lamar agreed it would be willing to take down the sign as long as Lamar was given enough time to operate the sign to recoup the cost that the sign incurred during the repairing of the sign. There was plenty of discussion between the attorneys on both sides of what were the costs and how long did Lamar need to recoup those costs. The parties agreed that Lamar would operate the sign until the end of February, and then Lamar would remove the sign. Obviously, at that time, no one could have predicted the worldwide pandemic would take place during the settlement period. And obviously, when Lamar did its financial analysis, it formed the basis of the agreement to remove the sign in February. It assumed business as usual during the entire settlement agreement. With business as usual, Lamar would have had time to recoup that repair cost, which again was the clear intent behind the date selected in the settlement agreement. As a result of the unexpected pandemic, that struck the entire country, this did not happen. And the pandemic hit the out-of-home industry especially hard because of small businesses that were not able to pay their advertising expenses, nor did they want to pay for advertising when people were not traveling on the roadways. Lamar voluntarily canceled and gave credit for the rest of the year to most of our customers to keep their businesses afloat, while the customers, including the customer on the billboard, Newsom Eye Clinic. Lamar lost millions of dollars trying to be a good corporate company. I know governments have made numerous strides to help out those businesses that struggled during the pandemic. And what happened to Lamar during the settlement agreement is no different. Lamar suffered a loss of income that would not have suffered but for the pandemic. And this, for the intent of the parties when reached with the settlement agreement, was not fulfilled. Accordingly, Lamar is requesting assistance from the city in the form of an amendment to the settlement agreement to allow Lamar more time to operate the sign to make up for the losses incurred as a result of the COVID-19. Specifically, Lamar is asking for 8 additional months to remain, which would give Lamar what believes to be enough time to recoup those costs that it did not recoup in 2020, as anticipated. If granted, Lamar would remove the sign on October 31st, 2021, not looking to extend it any further. We wouldn't come back again. While the impacts of COVID-19 will be felt for much longer than 8 months, it is not Lamar's intent to evade the settlement agreement, but temporarily extend the removal date so that the intent of the settlement agreement can be achieved for Lamar and our client, Newsom Eye Clinic. We're requesting the City Council assist Lamar by voting to amend the settlement agreement to allow the sign to remain for an additional 8 months.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody got
Questions?
questions?
I just have a comment and want to remind the board that this sign was erected illegally without a building permit. It was not repaired. It was fully constructed. The other sign was flattened to the ground. There has been no inspections on this. There's been no engineering done on this that's been submitted to the city. We don't know if the electrical is in compliance or not. Again, there was no inspections done on it. The city did make kind of go out of their way and allow Lamar to leave the sign up to try to recover some cost. Lamar did say that they would take it down in February, and I do believe that they should be held to that, and I will make a motion to decline the submitted request.
I'll second that.
Okay, any more comment?
Detman?
Hang on a minute.
A little more
Please.
discussion.
Anyone in the audience want to discuss this?
Do they understand? I think Charlie went over pretty good why we're at where we are. And instead of the first time that we've confronted Lamar about this, we're ready to go to court. So nobody's cooperating. And we reached an agreement. And I don't want any rope-a-doping going on. Give me 8 months. What's going to happen next? And we're still kind of sore about how this whole thing came about. It's a large company. It should not have been that unprofessional erecting that. That's why we really got a negative feeling about it. And I think that Lamar, being a big company, didn't think little Sebring would object too much or be able to stand against it. But that's for the audience and for the viewing. It's not we're trying to be ugly to the business. It's just I think they set the tone early, and we tried to work with them. Now they come back and want more time. And I don't know their finances in terms of, you said including Newsom, you gave them, I don't know how many breaks Newsom gave their eye patients, but I think that that's been advertising on it ever since. So, and it was supposed to be, was a figure 20,000 out there for the year.
I'm not sure.
So-
I know certainly cost recovery was Lamar's stated reason for the time, but council, I think, was weighing the benefit of agreeing to the February 28th day, let it be open for a certain amount longer,
Mhm.
was that you'd stop spending money on the lawyers in the lawsuit,
Financial.
reach the result that we thought you'd reach if we had spent more money, gone to a trial, and you would have obtained the same result of being able to have the sign down in about the amount of time it would have taken you to pursue a trial.
Right.
So you got what you would have gotten
Yeah.
without spending as much as you could have spent. I don't believe council was centered on Lamar's cost recovery, but rather the city's perspective on on whether it was a good
Expenditures.
idea to resolve it with the removal by February 28th.
Does anyone here know whether the permits and inspections were even done at this point? So the permits were not paid even after we have this disagreement?
Is there a
And-
building official? Greg,
What you got, Greg?
nothing? Yeah, I know it was an engineer, okay.
That's kind of a reason why we're not real agreeable on the second request. That's my position anyway. So I think we have a motion.
Do we have a motion and a second? Any other discussion?
Devin,
Yes.
Ivy,
Yes.
Lorick,
Yeah, the motion was to decline the submitted request.
Yes.
so
Correct.
That's yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the consideration.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to new business, tours, tourist development council update, Ms. Casey Wall, Hart. Come see us.
Hi.
What happened to you?
Uh-oh.
Bike or something?
Look at her on the toy.
This is Roscoe. Roscoe, I'm here.
Thought maybe you could have got one of those bird scooters. and
Yeah.
Brought it in here.
Yeah.
so.
You should know she gets around very well. She was rolling around the county commission meeting earlier.
Yeah,
Horn
they're
on it.
planning to start scooter races for me, so, I don't know if this is a good place for me to stay.
You're fine, unless you wanna sit down.
Okay, no, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all very much for the chance to come and give you a quick update on what TDC's doing. Obviously, last year was unlike any other year that anyone in the tourism, whether locally, nationally, internationally, have ever experienced. Before I get started, I want to thank Councilman Stewart. He sits on the TDC board, so he's probably heard this presentation already, so I do apologize for that. But I just think we're kind of, last year gave us a year to kind of look inward and kind of see what could we be doing better, how could we be doing things differently, and then how are we attracting tourists to Highlands County, given this current situation that we're dealing with. As most of you know, the TDC is funded through a tourist tax, so we get our money through heads and beds. We are part of the county, but we are not part of the general revenue fund. I'm actually a consultant for the county. I'm not a staff, and I'm not a county employee either. So, go ahead, Scott. So as I mentioned, what we really try to do is look at occupancy when visitors are not here. So we know typically in most years, January through March, we're good. Our hotels are full, our roads are full, our restaurants are full, but what are we doing about the rest of the time of the year? So that's really what the TDC is here to do. I mentioned we are funded by a tourist tax that's actually not just hotels, so any transient rental, which is 6 months or less, so Airbnbs, villas, condos, some of our winter friends that come down for 3 months, they are all subject to the tax as well. That is paid through Department of Revenue and then submitted back to us. We are governed by a Florida statute and a county ordinance, so there are certain ways we can and cannot spend our money. We have to be cognizant of. And also tourism contributes to our local economy with taxes, jobs, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And as I mentioned, we're governed by a 9-member council, and Councilman Stewart is the representative for Sebring. So real quick, I don't know if y'all can read that. It's a little tiny. Every other year, we get economic impact data from Visit Florida, which is a statewide tourism agency. So this is data we recently got from 2019. They're about 2 years behind. But you can see a lot of, I've heard people say, well, tourism, that's great for the hotels, but what about for the rest of our businesses? So this shows you visitor spending by category, and obviously our largest category is food and beverage. We all know when they're here, they need somewhere to eat. I was surprised though, the second largest is ground transportation. And since we don't have a lot of public transportation, this is probably your gasoline, fueling their vehicles, things like that. I will note, we do have a couple Uber and Lyft drivers, so that's good. And then lodging actually comes in third as far as what the visitors are spending their money on. And then on the bottom, I don't know if you can see, I think I was pleasantly surprised as well that about 9.3% of total county jobs is members, and I'm more than happy to send you this presentation too if you'd like it afterwards. Perfect. So in 2019, the TEC embarked on a strategic plan. And we actually had a series of events. We had public input meetings. We did interviews with some local leaders throughout the county at all different levels. Obviously our hoteliers, some of our restaurateurs, our golf courses. Those are what we call our local partners. And one of the things that really came out of the visioning session for this was that local residents wanted to see two things. They wanted our businesses to thrive year-round, not just seasonally. And they also wanted to create a community where kids who grow up here, go to college, or move away for a while, have a place to come back. They really felt like we were losing a lot of talent by people moving away. The mission that we came up with is to contribute a positive quality of life for the residents of the county. So the residents are actually our customer. However, our audience are tourists. So we're doing that by bringing tourism in here. I tell people what's great about tourists is they come in and they spend their money and they go home. We are not in the business of recruiting people to live here. If they do come and live here, that's great, but most of them just come here, visit, and then go back home. So we don't have to build more schools, more infrastructure for them. So it's a really good way to infuse some economic activity into our economy. So we actually, through the strategic plan, we developed 6 pillars or areas of focus. The very first one was emphasize digital first. So I know a lot of people here, especially in our small town, really like the newspaper, prints, magazines, different things like that. But when we look at attracting people from the larger cities, how people are booking travel, researching travel, it's really through digital components. So we've really shifted our focus to digital to actually attract some of those people. We're really focused on when people start Googling, Highlands County, Sebring, what are they finding? We actually worked on a Google audit where we hired a company to look at all of our tourism partners' Google pages. Do they have the right information? Do they have appealing pictures? Do they have their name listed correctly? You'd be surprised when you look at someone's Google profile. Some of them are not that appealing and don't really encourage people to come visit their establishments. We also wanted to focus more on public relations and media relations to increase our brand awareness. And during the strategic plan, we actually did a branding study and looked at the 3 different cities, municipalities that we had. Obviously, Sebring has the strongest brand outside of Highlands County. People recalled Sebring or were familiar with the name Sebring, more so than Avon Park. Lake Placid have some familiarity, but they were thinking of New York and not Florida. So we do look a lot at public relations. What I love about public relations is we call it earned media. So we don't necessarily pay for that marketing or that advertising. It takes a little bit more work to get it, but we have a third party saying Sebring is a great place to visit. The Sebring area is wonderful. Highlands Park is beautiful. It means a lot more when somebody else is saying that than when we're talking about it. And then number 3, we want to look at projects to make the destination more appealing and engaging. And this is really looking at what we call, there's a book called The Experience Economy. So one thing we realized is that we were touting all the wonderful freshwater lakes we have in the county, which is great. They are beautiful lakes. But if you're the average leisure traveler, you come here with no boat, no kayak, no paddleboard. We really don't have that accessibility. We don't have a lot of places people can rent the boats, people can rent the kayaks. So while we were promoting the lakes, we didn't really have a mechanism for the visitor, the average visitor, to access them. Same thing with the racetrack. We talk about the birthplace of American endurance racing, but if you're a leisure traveler here on a random Tuesday, how do you engage with the racetrack? Is there a tour? Can you drive a race car? Is there a Hall of Fame building? So we really realized on a lot of different fronts, not just those 2, that we're missing that accessibility component. So we really started looking at how does the traveler experience what we have to offer. And then I mentioned industry partner engagement and education. That's our Google audit. We also have done social media training earlier last year. In October, we had the Florida Festival and Events Association CEO come and talk to a lot of our event planners. How do you handle events during COVID? We actually had about 25 or 30 people attend that, so that was really good. We also streamlined some of our administrative duties. We were meeting every month, which was a lot of work for 2 people to do. We've actually started meeting quarterly now with a quarterly grant cycle, and this has given us as staff more time to have what we call stakeholder meetings. So we'll say, hey, all fishing tournament directors, let's get together and talk about how we can improve fishing tournament facilities here. Or same thing with golf courses or hoteliers. So it's enabled us to go out into the tourism community and talk with them a little bit more and help them a lot more than we had in the past. And then enhancement projects. We actually have a fund, what we call our third penny. It's for asset development and enhancement. We started the fund, we didn't really know what we were gonna do with it. We just know we needed some sort of fund for capital improvements. So what came from our strategic plan is that we had about $250,000 in a lakes account that was for lakes improvements that we really hadn't touched since I had been there. So we wanted to be fiscally responsible. Let's look at the lakes money, how can we best utilize those funds? And that resulted in meeting with fishing tournament directors. We realized on Lake Istapoga has two really nice fishing facilities, Windy Point, Lake Placid, and then Istapoga Park and Sebring. We realized that Istapoga Park had great boat dockage, beautiful facility, but they didn't really have the boat and trailer parking. Windy Point was the complete opposite. They had great boat and trailer parking, but they didn't have the boat dockage. So we have a project, and we actually got a grant from FWC to help us to make those improvements at both facilities. So that's gonna be our start, and then we did a sports audit in January of 20. The sports audit really helped us hone in on what are some of our sporting facilities here locally that we have that with some enhancements could attract more tournaments, more events, and bring visitors here. So this is just a quick slide. Destinations Florida is actually an organization that represents TDCs from across the state. In October, we had our virtual conference and saw a couple trends happening statewide with tourism. So first, most destinations showed a record high collections until February 2020. Our fiscal year starts in October. So from October 2019 to February 2020, we were doing great. Everyone was doing great. We had a 20% increase in our collections, which means how much money we were realizing. And then COVID hit, and we lost our biggest event of the year. We lost the 12 hours. So what I learned from that conversation, though, with Destination Florida is that we had an overall decrease of 14%, but compared to some destinations that were looking at 50, 60, 70% decrease, I'll take 14% any day. Second, many destinations were reporting that sports tourism was helping them rebound more than anything. And if you think about it, you may not be ready during a pandemic to take your leisure trip, but if your child is playing sports or your grandkid is playing golf, has a golf tournament or a tennis tournament or soccer tournament, you're a little bit more apt to travel to go see them play their sport. So since August of 2020, we've had 5 new sporting event requests come to us, and we're going to be seeing more, so we're pretty excited about that. The third one is that DMOs, which are TDCs, we have all these acronyms. TDCs are reporting a shift from destination marketing to destination management. Before 2 years ago, I'd probably stand up here and talk to you about all the marketing campaigns that we're doing and why we're doing them. And again, we had that strategic plan. It's not just happening with us, it's happening with destinations across the state. We're looking at inward. How do we manage our destination? What kind of products are we offering to visitors? Because even if we had $1 million to market, if we don't have the products that they want, meaning accessibility on the lakes, accessibility at the racetrack, then it doesn't matter how much money we had. And then third, community outreach. The more I talk to people, the more I realize they don't really think of us as a tourist destination. And we're a small town, we're rural, we're in the middle of the state, but because of that racetrack, because of a lot of the lakes, because of a lot of the amenities we have, we actually do have a pretty vibrant tourism economy here. So doing some local presentations, community updates to just let people know what the TDC does has been part of our 2021 plan. That's a little technical.
She must be done.
So just a couple, these are some of our major accomplishments. We had a grant program when I came to the TDC where we gave out 2 different grant options for events. One was a $1,000 grant if you had a daytime event, didn't have an overnight component. If it did have an overnight component and you could prove heads and beds, you could get up to $5,000. Last year we revised that grant program. We actually have 5 It ranges everywhere from $2,500 for a community event all the way up to $65,000 for a high-impact signature event. So we feel like these events are really bringing people here. We need to reward the events that have been continuing to come, and then also have a bigger carrot to attract some of these other events. We added a tourism awards component to our tourism luncheon. Obviously, last year we didn't have the luncheon, we just had the program. But we did add tourism awards recognizing some of our tourism representatives in 7 different categories. I think it's really important to recognize some of our frontline people here. I mean, when you're a visitor, the people you interact with the most are often the servers at the restaurants or the front desk clerk at the hotel. Those are the face. That's who's representing our destination. So we wanted to have an awards program where we could recognize their efforts. We also launched a Geo Tour program. If anybody is a geocacher, geocaching is a mobile, GPS-guided mobile scavenger hunt that people do all over the world. There are geocaches everywhere on every continent, even Antarctica. And we were fortunate to have, there's a volunteer at Highlands State Park that came to us and wanted to do an actual geo tour, which we're the 3rd geo tour in the state of Florida. And we actually launched the program in September of last year. There's a landing page on our site. It has been phenomenally successful. And the great thing is I think our timing was excellent. We didn't intend to launch in the middle of a pandemic, but having an outdoor event that you can do with your family, any age can do, from kids to grandparents, very multi-generational, everyone can get involved, it's easy to do. That was really a successful program for us last year. I mentioned the Istapoga facility improvements that are in progress. We've also partnered with a couple of different, I call it technology platforms. CrowdRiff is one of the ones that we use for what we call user-generated content. So 5 years ago, we would have these nice, pretty magazines with really beautiful pictures. Right now, people are moving to how do we ask people that are generating content on Instagram. They're at Highlands State Park and take this really pretty picture. We want to show what they're doing. We want to show that there's an actual visitor here showcasing what to do at Highlands State Park. So while we still use our really pretty pictures that our photographer takes, we're looking at user-generated content a lot more. Sorry, Scott, I'm not going fast
No.
enough.
I apologize.
The other technology platform that we're working with is one called Van Wango. They actually do digital passports for us. So we used to have an art and culture passport that was a little booklet. You'd have to be able to go to the chamber or make sure whatever entity was distributing them was open at the time. These are digital passports people can download on their phones. They can do them anytime. And we actually did one for our Friends and Family campaign last year to help. We didn't really know what was the right time to launch marketing to invite people to come back to travel again. So we thought the first wave of travel was going to probably be people asking their friends and family to come visit them. So we launched a Friends and Family passport. But the great thing about Van Wango is that we can do as many passports as we want. We actually have a Citrus Golf Trail passport. We just haven't launched it yet. I mentioned our sports audit. We also had the new event, the Gfny Cycling, which you all were very instrumental in helping to make that happen. And I have some data on that later in the presentation. Fishing influencers. We found that a lot of people coming to our website were searching for fishing during the pandemic. Obviously, it's an outdoor activity. It's on the water. It was a really good match for us. So we hired 2 fishing influencers over the summer, a man and a woman, to come to the area. They were both from Southwest Florida to fish, to post on their social media, on their YouTube channels, on the radio show, talk about what they were doing, and that was highly successful as well. The new travel guide, I just passed out. We did a lot to respond to the COVID-19 situation, obviously trying to learn from what other destinations were doing, but then also trying to help our tourism partners here get through it. And then I mentioned our social media training partners. So what's new? I mentioned sports tourism, and that is something that we are aggressively going after. We have recently partnered with a sports marketing company called Airstream Ventures. They're based in Jacksonville. They just came to our January meeting, gave a presentation, but this is pretty much what's on the horizon as far as sports tourism for us. In April, we are doing a pro watercross event that is actually going to be Veterans Beach, right, Scott, on Lake Jackson?
Yes.
We recruited, before we worked with Airstream, we had recruited the American Junior Golf Association. They are bringing a preview event youth golfers here in April. The Sebring Multi-Sport Festival is an event that I think Dan Andrews and I probably got a call at the same time from the event organizer. He used to do an event in Miami. He said, I need to get this out of Miami. I've heard Sebring's a great place. I've heard great things about the Harley Triathlon. I'd like to do something in May. And so Dan was really helpful with that, but that is coming to May to the Civic Center as well. Bono Built Wrestling, this just got approved by the County Commission today. This is a youth wrestling event. What's really cool about this is Chris Bono is an Olympic wrestler. He is actually former Olympic wrestler. He's the head coach of wrestling at University of Wisconsin. So he and his assistant coach, who's also an Olympic wrestler, have devised this new wrestling tournament style where they come in 2 days early. They train these kids, some of the youth wrestlers. They get to train with Olympic wrestlers, and then they compete later. So that is coming in May to the Allen J Arena. Moto Surf, this is a picture of, I don't know, have anyone seen or heard of Moto Surf until just, this is little surfboards that have motors on the back. This is, the guy that designed these is from the Czech Republic. This is very popular in Europe, and he is looking to bring this to the United States, and he wants to have his international championship here this fall. Yeah. Hildervat is another one I had never heard of, but if you are familiar with the Spartan race or a Tough Mudder, it's very much like that. It's a race with obstacles, but they always have a beach component. So when they first started talking to me about beaches, I was like, well, you know, they probably want like Daytona or, you know, beaches. He's like, no, we want your beaches. We want lakefront beaches. So we're talking about that. Would also be in downtown Sebring as well. The Gfny Marathon, you all were familiar with the Gfny cycling event. They are coming back with the cycling, but then also with a foot race. This is going to be their first foot race in North America that they're going to do. They think they did one in maybe Mexico. So, but this is their first one in the States for sure. They're bringing that back in October, a week I think before the actual cycling event. Citrus Golf Trail Open, that is actually an event that we've created with the Citrus Golf Trail, which is a group of local golf courses that brand together as a Citrus Golf Trail. That will be coming in December. And we're also talking about spring games, which is softball in February. February is not typically a target month for us, but we could have 1,500 softball people here in February. We wouldn't mind our February to look like our March. And then American Cornhole League, we're looking at a big tournament for that in 2022. And then, since this presentation, we're actually talking to minor league golf about 3 tournaments here for this year and a possible lacrosse tournament at the sports complex. This is all like just happened this week. So I just wanted to point this out real quick, and you probably can't read these numbers very well. So we are a member of the Florida Sports Foundation. So all the license plates that have sports teams on them and on their vehicles, the money goes to the Florida Sports Foundation. Since we're a member, we can actually apply for grants to refund us for sporting events that we host. Makes the sporting events even better. So what we had to do, this is for Gfny cycling that took place in October, and this is the economic impact summary. I had to plug in how many days people stayed here. I mean, you can see all the different categories. Were they day in-state youth participants, day out-of-state youth participants? I had to plug all this in. Anyway, the bottom, the total projected economic impact from that event was $655,000 from that one event. And then you can see it drops down even more. The state and local sales tax collected was about $49,000. The actual economic impact on our hotels was about $330,000. So I know, like, even for TEC, and Councilman Stewart can attest to this, that was the biggest spend we'd ever done. So it's good to see these numbers and know that we are getting a good return on our investment. It is worthwhile. And I think there's a picture next to it, Scott. One of the things I loved about it, personally, is that they also did a youth race. And the youth race was mainly local kids that, you know, how many of these local kids would ever get to compete in a cycling race at this magnitude? You know, with all the Gfny stuff, and they had awesome swag for them. So this was really cool, not just the economic impact, but also the community impact it had as well. So a couple things, and this is for a lot of the communities, you know, how can you help? I tell everyone, one of the biggest things I hear from our event planners that come here is that everyone is so nice here. Everyone is so nice. They're just so nice. It's People are not nice. They love being here, and they just are so blown away that people are nice here. So I think the best thing we can do is keep being nice. Sometimes when, our roads get crowded, it's frustrating, or if we have to wait in line at a restaurant, it's frustrating, but a lot of these people are tourists, and we welcome them. We love having them here. They're a very important part of our community. Volunteer at tourism events. I will attest, and Mayor Shoup, he was at the Gfny event. The actual cycling event was on October 25th. It was a Sunday. It was my birthday. I had to be there at 5 a.m. Like, so many strikes against this event. My birthday, Sunday, 5 a.m. But it was really, really awesome to see all these cyclists line up, get in their corrals. They had the music pumping. It was really cool, and you hear all these different accents. I mean, it was a very international event, which I'm really glad I got to see. So whether you're a golfer or a cornhole person, we just encourage everyone to get out to some of these events and see what's going on. It is really exciting to see. And they couldn't believe the mayor was there. They were like, oh, the mayor of Sebring is coming? Oh my gosh. So it doesn't
Earned
take
my
much.
dollar that day, let me tell you.
You did what?
Earned my dollar that day.
You earned your dollar, yes, sir. And then we also have our tourism awards. So we have this year we have 8 categories. We added a sports tourism category. So if you know of a restaurant, it can be an individual, an organization, a business. Please nominate people for our tourism awards. I think it's really important to recognize their efforts. And then get social. We ask everyone to hashtag visit Sebring. If you have some pretty lake pictures, I know some of your wives take really pretty lake pictures. Use hashtag visit Sebring. That way we can pull that content into that CrowdRiff platform and then repost it and use it. And then a great way to stay updated is all of our social handles are at Visit Sebring. So Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, that's where you can find us. And then we also have e-newsletters. And the last thing I did want to mention to you all is that we do have some awesome events coming. They are probably going to come to you all for some sort of assistance. I don't know what at this time, whether it's help with the Civic Center or whatever they need. So I just ask that you keep all this in mind, why we're doing all this, and we appreciate your support so far. Any questions?
A great job.
Very good, Casey.
Because you really, you go to a lot of these events, and it's amazing how people say how nice people are here. You know what I mean? But I think they're friendly and they talk to you, and they're not. I talked to several people at the cycling, the Gfny thing, and that were from New York and actually out of the country, and it was amazing how they just said, "Boy, this is just." People talk to you,
Yeah. Right.
So, it's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
I know,
So,
like,
but
where are you from then? People are so mean. I don't go there.
you've done a great job with it, Casey.
Yeah,
Really,
you've really done a great
Thank you
job.
very much. Well, we're really excited about the sporting events. I think, we've really kind of taken some of our money off the table as far as marketing and shifted it to these events. So I think
probably bigger return on the money. So.
I think so too. And the other thing that we're dealing with is that a lot of these destinations got CARES money from our county for marketing, and we did not. So when that happened, I was like, you know what, we can't compete with Lake County that's getting $500,000.
Right.
They're a similar county to us, they're in the middle of the state, they're gonna be competing for drive traffic market. We can't compete, so we've gotta go a different direction and really go after these events that we know we're gonna get here.
Can't forget about our Heartland Trial, right, Dan?
Yeah, they support us heavily.
Yep. Also, let me mention that SCCA, Sports Car Club of America, has about 4 or 5 different events out here every year. They just had one this past weekend, had 300 to 500 people come out for that.
Yes.
And if we could pull some of those people into town a little bit more, instead of just staying out at the track, or maybe encourage them to bring their wife or significant other to come to town while they're on the racetrack, that might be a benefit for us as well. But just having SCCA come do their events is huge. And there's also other sports car clubs that do the same thing out at the racetrack.
Yes. And I will say, this July of 2020 was our best July ever, because there was a big Cadillac event at the racetrack. They got moved from somewhere else. So I think because the track's kind of out of sight, out of mind for a lot of locals, they don't realize that impact that the track has, but it really does bring a lot of people here.
Yeah. Good job.
Thank you all
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thanks, Casey.
Appreciate it. Okay, we're gonna go to 10B, the Sebring Soda Fest. I don't see. Hi, how are you? I was looking for Christy. I don't see her out there, but tell us who you are and what you're up to.
My name is Tennille Drury Smith. For those who don't know me, I am the new president and CEO of the Sebring Chamber of Commerce. We put on the Sebring Soda Festival every year, aside from last year when it got postponed and eventually canceled due to the pandemic. But we're looking forward to starting anew this year and having an amazing festival with some precautions, some extra precautions, but we'll get through it. So we are looking. We typically have this festival the first weekend in April. We were given some unique challenges this year because that happens to fall on Easter weekend. So we had to make a few adjustments, and in those adjustments, one of them is kind of pushing the festival up to Friday, starting the festival on Friday, so it is a 2-day festival when we had originally planned it to be a 3-day festival. We didn't want to lose out on that, but it is Good Friday, so we're hoping that with a lot of people being off of work and out of school that we can kind of capitalize on that. So you'll see that the festival itself will start at 3 p.m. on Friday, and it will work in conjunction with what the CRA had planned for the Family Fizzy Fun Night. So we're going to kind of meld those two things together. We'll offer about 100 plus samplings of sodas, and then we will also offer an additional different batch of sodas on Saturday, and lots of extra entertainment and that sort of thing during the festival itself on Saturday. And then we are still moving forward with our big block party concert Saturday evening, with of course a lot of modifications with social distancing and everything, which will be seen throughout the entire festival. We've had to make a lot of adjustments, but we think that with that it will be a successful event, just the same as it was 2 years ago and the first year. So.
Sounds good. It's a lot of work, isn't it?
I just started in December, and really not a lot had been done for this year, so I'm
Yeah,
having to cram a lot into a small period of time, but we're getting it. So.
Well, welcome to the rat race.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I think the soda festival was very successful when we had it a couple of years ago, and it is something that is somewhat unique. I'm going to put it that way.
Yes.
And so they can set Sebring apart from just the normal stuff, if you will, and help get our name out there. So I think it's a good thing. So thank you.
Isn't there only 2 cities that do this? Us and one other.
Yes.
I think
Is it
so,
in,
yeah.
I think Iowa. Is the other one Iowa?
Someplace in the Midwest.
Illinois. It's one of the I states. That's all I remember. So between the first year and the second year, we did jump about 50% in attendance. We had 5,000 in the first year and then 10,000 the second year, and those are really good data that we collected. So, we don't know what to expect this year. I know working at the Sebring Chamber and seeing the traffic that we're getting, there are a lot of day travelers coming through looking for things to do because we are open. Where a lot of surrounding counties on the coast are not. People are hungry for things to do, so I think that we're going to try to really capitalize on that, and we'll get a lot of those people.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think it'll be better than it was because exactly what you said.
Yes.
I went to a car show 2 weekends ago on a Thursday night, and it was probably 5,000 people there, and over 500 cars.
Did you social distance while you were there?
There was nobody social distancing, and there was no mask. None. I'm telling you, it was crazy. But I think you'll do well.
Yeah. Well, of course, we're going to encourage people to, but we can only encourage so much. So
Right.
we'll do what we can to create the environment and
That's
let
good.
people do what they may.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the event as presented, conditioned upon the Chamber of Commerce providing liability insurance of at least $1 million with the city named as the additional insured.
I'll second that.
Are we doing anything on the, he didn't put it in the notes?
No, it says presented.
As presented.
Okay, okay,
It's in the notes.
okay. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Ivy?
Yes.
Lawrence?
Yes?
Stewart?
Yes.
Carlisle?
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks,
Thank you
Neil.
very much.
Thank you. Good luck.
Okay, we're gonna move on to 10C, Miss Hannah Tucker. 12-hour Fan Fest.
Hi, my name's Hannah. I'm with the CRA. So we're going to be doing Fan Fest March 16th. You guys have all those details in front of you, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask me.
You gonna have the food trucks down there too,
Mhm.
again? So,
Yes.
So if we saw that, so.
And I think you have the map attached to it. Yep, so anything yellow, that's where we have planned for the food trucks. We're gonna try to separate them out as much as possible. One of the main things for IMSA, when a picture's taken, they don't want a large group of people in that picture. They want it to somewhat look like they were trying their best to be safe. So we're gonna try to help them with that and just really separate everything out so that it's not one street designated to food trucks, they're kind of all over.
That's wise.
Yeah.
And then also in your map, I think it's orange. Yes, orange. So that's gonna be the safe zone, and that was one of the big components to us being allowed to have this through IMSA. The safe zone's only gonna be allowed for drivers and myself or anyone helping me plan the event. We're gonna be the only ones allowed in there. The drivers will come drive and park right behind the CRA office. They'll walk onto the stage, do fan form, get back in their car and leave. So they will have zero interaction physically with fans. They're gonna talk to them through fan forum, but they will not bump into them, nothing. They will not be close enough to have a full conversation with anyone.
Sounds good.
No beer truck this year, huh?
There will be beer on the circle. JJ Taylor's gonna be selling it.
Good drinks.
Here it says,
Well, okay.
it says yes, I'm sorry.
But it says right there, little. blue-
Not that I need it or anything. It's an exciting event, I'll tell you. The first year they did it, I thought, who's gonna watch these big trucks come to town? And I had
It's a big
chills in my
thing.
spine. I thought, that's pretty cool stuff when you see it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty
very
exciting.
different.
The drivers will love it. I'm telling you, they get into it, so it's,
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, truck drivers,
Yep.
not the regular drivers.
Yeah.
And the drivers are pretty cool too, though. I mean, they were very,
Mhm.
so it's too bad you can't,
I know.
don't have a mix, but I
Yeah.
kinda understand.
Yeah. But the transporter parade's gonna be a little different this year. It's gonna go from the track to the city and then back to the track.
That's
Is that
what
what
it
I'm reading?
always does. They leave the track around 5:45. They get downtown. We're just changing the time a little bit, so we went a little early last time, and we were noticing a lot of people were missing it from leaving work right at 5. They weren't able to get there, so
Uh-huh.
we're gonna start them downtown at 6 o'clock.
I see, okay. Yeah, I was thinking that they staged somewhere else and then just
yeah.
went through town and.
First year they did
track.
at the mall. I think.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But yeah, they spent some awesome money on those trucks. The graphics are just crazy. So,
Mhm.
and you can identify them
Yep.
with the different teams, so that's a neat thing.
Yep.
So, that's a great thing that Christie brought here.
Well, we need a
Glad to
motion.
see it back.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the event as presented, including waiver of fees.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Stefan?
Yes.
Ivy?
Yes.
Lawrence?
Yes?
Stewart?
Yes.
Carlisle?
Yes. Do we have any
Thanks,
business?
Dana.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have any business from the audience? Nope. City attorney,
No, sir, thank you.
city administrator,
No, sir, thank you.
nothing. Well, that leaves you.
I would like to present the bills. As presented.
Hey,
I wasn't sure if you're passing, okay, I was not able to speak.
Point
on, let's make sure we handle the
We got a
vote on
motion.
the bills real
Oh,
quick. You're-
okay.
They're gonna give you a chance to talk in just a second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second.
Okay, who motioned it first? Okay, second.
Who seconded?
I'll second.
Okay, we got, Mr. Ivy.
Denton?
Yes.
Eddie?
Yes.
Lovett?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Carlisle?
Yes. You're up. That's okay.
Ralph Flores,
Good evening.
good evening. One of the problems I hear people talking about the parking downtown, and we got plenty of parking. I came from Miami 5 years ago, and if you go downtown or any area where there's public parking, they have signs, permanent signs, not just temporary during an event, showing where the parking is at. Most people have no idea that all that parking behind my building, behind the, what do you call it? Sorry, behind Wall Street back there, there's a lot of parking back there. Most people have no idea there's parking there, or even the new parking we have by the, by Lakeview Drive. So I think we need to have some of those signs up there showing people who are coming in from out of town, or even locals that have no idea. They complain that you only got 14 parking spaces in the circle. And, you know, we have lots of parking spaces, but most people have no idea where those parking spaces are, and we should do that.
Good point.
Yep.
That's
The
actually
other thing
something.
is, we should need to get rid of those yields into the circle from, I've had 3 close accidents there, close with me, because people don't, on the yields just come right by, they don't even slow down.
Well, the,
Something to think about.
yeah, the circle is actually a state road.
State road, yeah. It's
So
not-
Right.
we don't control that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
But, yeah, and just to let you know, the CRA is working on some signage for the parking, some what they call wayfinder signs.
has been.
They have tried, yeah.
One year they did, I think, temporary signs, but I think we
Yeah.
have permanent signs for, you know, all year round that people come to the circle.
Yeah.
Some
But-
people come to the circle, find no parking spaces, just,
Right.
I chased down it's called, RV the other